What if I told you that a single battle could have changed the course of history for both Europe and Asia? A battle that never happened, but came terrifyingly close to reality. In one corner, we have Genghis Khan, the man who conquered more land in 25 years than the Romans did in 400. In the other, we have the Ottoman Empire, a force that would go on to rule 3 continents for 6 centuries. Who would have emerged victorious in this clash of titans? The Mongol horde approaches. The dust cloud on the horizon grew larger with each passing moment, a foreboding omen of the impending storm. Ottoman scouts squinted against the harsh sunlight, their hearts racing as they tried to make sense of the approaching mass. Thousands of horsemen emerged from the haze, their arrows already nocked and ready to unleash a deadly rain upon their enemies. Genghis Khan's unstoppable war machine had set its sights westward, beyond the conquered lands of China and Persia. The great Khan's insatiable appetite for conquest now threatened to devour the fledgling Ottoman Empire. Little did the Ottoman Sultan know that his young nation faced an existential threat unlike any they had encountered before. In the Mongol war camp, Khan's generals huddled around crude maps of Ottoman territories, their callous fingers tracing potential routes of advance. They spoke in hushed tones of the riches that awaited them in Constantinople, of the glory to be won in crushing yet another empire beneath their horses' hooves. Meanwhile, Ottoman spies risked life and limb to bring urgent warnings to the Sultan's court, their whispered reports sending shockwaves through the palace. On the steppes, Mongol cavalry practiced their infamous feigned retreat tactic, a maneuver that had broken the will of countless enemies. Riders wheeled their mounts in intricate patterns, simulating a chaotic rout, before suddenly regrouping to crush their pursuers. In Ottoman workshops, gunsmiths labored day and night, racing against time to perfect their latest cannons. The acrid smell of gunpowder filled the air as they tested their creations, praying that these weapons would be enough to stem the Mongol tide. As the 2 empires drew closer to conflict, the fate of Europe and Asia hung in the balance. The Mongols' lightning-fast mobility gave them a significant advantage over the Ottomans' slower-moving infantry and siege weapons. Khan's horsemen could cover vast distances in a day, striking where the enemy was weakest and vanishing before a counterattack could be mounted. The Ottoman forces, accustomed to siege warfare and pitched battles, found themselves ill-prepared for the fluid tactics of the Mongol horde. In the Sultan's palace, an emergency war council was called. Advisors and generals argued fiercely, their voices echoing off the ornate walls as they debated how to face this unprecedented threat. Some advocated for abandoning the outlying territories and concentrating their forces around Constantinople. Others insisted on meeting the Mongols in open battle, hoping to catch them off guard before they could fully deploy their forces. The Sultan listened to each argument in turn, his brow furrowed with the weight of the decision before him. He knew that their next move could determine the future of their empire. As the debate raged on, a messenger burst into the council chamber, his face pale with fear. "Your Highness," he gasped, struggling to catch his breath. "The Mongols have been spotted crossing the Bosphorus. They'll be at our gates within days." Clash of military minds. As the sun dipped below the horizon, 2 brilliant military minds separated by vast distances pored over maps, their keen eyes searching for any advantage. Genghis Khan, the scourge of Asia, stood in his war tent, surrounded by his most trusted generals. Across the continent, Sultan Mehmed II, the young Ottoman ruler, hunched over a table in his opulent palace, advisors whispering in his ear. Both men knew that the coming conflict would reshape the world. The great Khan's reputation preceded him. His armies had conquered more land than any man in history, leaving a trail of broken empires in their wake. But now, he faced a new challenge. The rising Ottoman state, with its innovative military reforms and fierce determination to carve out its own empire. In the Mongol camp, Khan outlined his strategy. "We'll draw them out," he growled, his finger tracing a path across the crude map. "Let them think they have the advantage, then crush them with our superior mobility." His generals nodded, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. The Mongols' hit-and-run tactics had proven devastatingly effective against countless foes. Why should the Ottomans be any different? But in Constantinople, Sultan Mehmed was not so easily fooled. He had studied the Mongols' tactics, and he knew the danger they posed. "We must use our strengths," he declared, his voice steady despite the weight of the decision before him. "Our cannons and our janissaries will be our shield against the Mongol horde." As scouts from both sides returned with reports, tension mounted. Mongol riders spoke of massive Ottoman cannons, weapons that could tear through their cavalry formations like paper. Ottoman spies returned with tales of Mongol brutality, of entire cities put to the sword without mercy. Khan's brow furrowed as he absorbed this new information. He had faced gunpowder weapons before, but never on this scale. The Ottoman artillery could pose a significant threat to his usual tactics. He would need to adapt, to find a way to neutralize this advantage before it could be brought to bear. Meanwhile, Mehmed grappled with his own dilemma. The janissaries, his elite infantry corps, were trained in the use of gunpowder weapons and could potentially stand against the Mongol cavalry. But could they maintain their discipline in the face of the terrifying Mongol charge? The Sultan knew that if his lines broke, the superior mobility of the Mongol horsemen would spell doom for his forces. As the first skirmishes broke out along the border, both leaders watched and waited, probing for weaknesses. Mongol riders clashed with Ottoman patrols, testing the mettle of their opponents. The Ottomans responded with thunderous cannon fire, forcing the Mongols to retreat and rethink their approach. Khan realized that his usual tactics of luring enemies into ambushes might not work against the more static Ottoman formations. He would need to find a way to draw them out, to negate their artillery advantage. Mehmed, for his part, considered the merits of a defensive strategy. If he could lure the Mongols into a prolonged siege, his superior artillery and fortified positions might prevail. The siege of Constantinople. As the Mongol horde approached Constantinople, they found themselves facing a challenge unlike any they had encountered before. The city's massive walls loomed before them, a testament to centuries of engineering and defensive prowess. Khan's army, masters of the open field, now had to contend with one of the most heavily fortified cities in the world. Inside the city, Sultan Mehmed II stood atop the walls, his eyes scanning the horizon. The Ottoman leader knew that this siege would be a test of will and endurance. He had spent years reinforcing the city's defenses, but would it be enough to withstand the might of the Mongol Empire? As Khan's engineers studied the formidable walls, searching for any weakness they could exploit, Mehmed oversaw the placement of his prized cannons. The Ottoman artillery, capable of hurling massive stones weighing over 600 kilograms, was positioned strategically along the walls. These fearsome weapons had proven their worth in previous sieges, and Mehmed hoped they would be the key to repelling the Mongol assault. Days turned into weeks as the siege dragged on. The Mongols, accustomed to swift victories, found themselves bogged down in a war of attrition. Khan's siege engine slowly took shape, but progress was painfully slow. Inside the city, the Ottomans frantically stockpiled supplies and strengthened their defenses, knowing that every day they held out was a small victory. But Khan was not one to give up easily. He ordered his forces to cut off all supply lines to the city, hoping to starve out the defenders. Yet Mehmed had an ace up his sleeve, the Ottoman Navy. Under cover of darkness, swift ships slipped through the Mongol blockade, bringing much-needed supplies and reinforcements to the besieged city. The naval advantage proved crucial. Not only did it allow Constantinople to resist the siege, but it also gave Mehmed the ability to potentially outflank the land-based Mongol army. Khan, realizing the threat, was forced to divert resources to deal with this unexpected challenge. As the siege stretched on, both sides began to wonder who would break first. The Mongols, used to swift victories, found their morale tested by the unyielding walls of Constantinople. Inside the city, despite the constant resupply, the strain of the siege began to take its toll on the defenders. In a daring move, Mehmed ordered a nighttime raid on the Mongol camp. Ottoman forces, slipping out under cover of darkness, caught the besiegers off guard. They set fire to several siege engines before melting back into the night, leaving chaos and confusion in their wake. The raid was a turning point. Khan, realizing that his usual tactics were failing against this formidable opponent, was forced to reconsider his strategy. The walls of Constantinople, coupled with the Ottomans' naval superiority and advanced artillery, had proven to be a challenge even the great Mongol conquerors struggled to overcome. The aftermath and what-ifs. As the smoke cleared from the battlefield, history hung in the balance. What if Khan had found a way to breach those impenetrable walls? Or if Mem's cannons had failed to fire? The world we know might have been shaped by the outcome of a single, fateful day. Imagine a scenario where the Mongol horde emerged victorious. Their unstoppable cavalry would have swept across Europe, forever altering the course of Western civilization. The Renaissance, that golden age of art and innovation, might have been snuffed out before it ever began. Instead of Michelangelo's David or Leonardo's Mona Lisa, we might have seen Mongol-inspired art adorning the great halls of Florence and Rome. But the consequences of a Mongol victory would have reached far beyond the realm of culture. Trade routes, already extensive under Mongol rule, would have expanded even further. The Silk Road, that ancient highway of commerce and ideas, would have stretched from the shores of China to the Atlantic coast of Europe. Spices, silks, and gunpowder would have flowed more freely than ever before, accelerating the exchange of technologies and philosophies between East and West. Yet history is rarely so simple. What if the tables had turned, and the Ottomans had not only repelled the Mongol invasion, but emerged stronger for it? Sultan Mehmed II, having learned from the tactics of his formidable opponent, might have pushed his empire even further into Europe. The balance of power would have shifted dramatically, with an Ottoman flag potentially flying over Vienna, Paris, or even London. In this alternate timeline, the Islamic Golden Age might have experienced a renaissance of its own. Ottoman scientists and philosophers, bolstered by their victory over the seemingly invincible Mongols, could have ushered in an era of unprecedented discovery and innovation. The Industrial Revolution might have begun not in the factories of Manchester, but in the workshops of Istanbul. Religious landscapes, too, would have been reshaped by the clash of these titans. A Mongol victory might have seen shamanic practices and Buddhism gain a foothold in Europe, while an Ottoman triumph could have spread Islam far beyond its historical boundaries. The very foundations of modern geopolitics would have been built on dramatically different bedrock. But perhaps the most profound impact would have been on the nature of warfare itself. The collision of Mongol mobility and Ottoman firepower would have accelerated the development and spread of gunpowder technology. Armies across the world would have scrambled to adapt, potentially ushering in the age of modern warfare centuries ahead of schedule. Scholars and historians continue to debate the cultural, technological, and religious implications of these hypothetical outcomes. Some argue that a more interconnected world would have emerged much earlier, fostering greater understanding between diverse cultures. Others contend that such rapid change might have led to even more conflict and instability. As we return to reality, we're left to ponder how close history came to taking a dramatically different path. The clash between Mongol and Ottoman forces, had it occurred, would have been more than just a battle between two great empires. It would have been a crucible in which the future of humanity was forged. As the dust settles on our hypothetical clash of titans, we're left to ponder the far-reaching consequences of such a monumental collision. The Mongol horde and Ottoman forces, each formidable in their own right, would have unleashed a storm of innovation and destruction across the Eurasian continent. Imagine the rapid spread of gunpowder technology, the fusion of Eastern and Western military tactics, and the cultural exchange that would have followed in the wake of this epic struggle. But perhaps the most valuable lesson we can glean from this imaginary conflict lies in the realm of adaptability. The Mongols' ability to evolve their strategies in the face of new challenges serves as a stark reminder of the importance of flexibility in our modern world. As we grapple with global issues that transcend borders and cultures, the strategic brilliance of these historical empires offers a blueprint for navigating the complex geopolitical landscape of today. In the end, history is a tapestry woven from countless what-ifs and near-misses. The clash between Genghis Khan and the Ottoman Empire may be a product of our imagination, but the lessons we can draw from it are all too real. As we stand at the precipice of our own uncertain future, it's up to us to learn from the past and shape the next chapter of human history.